All right, let's get started. Let me just recap real quickly. I know we talked a lot about mindset. Still got a hum. Talked a lot about mindset over the course of this first little session, but everybody gets frustrated with it. But frankly, if you don't get the mindset right, the tactics don't get there. So we got to get you, we'll get you there with the tactics, but the mindset is really important. We talked about duplication. To kind of recap, can we throw that back up, guys? There we go. So we talked about duplication, trying to find a way to get there, and some tips to being able to get to duplication. Talked about the 3 stages in a network marketer's growth curve. We want to get you to the legend status. We talked about the pessimist, the realist, and the visionary. How challenging it is to be visionary, but how necessary it is for you to step into a visionary mindset. We talked about the fact that success loves speed. Success loves speed. And the reasons why. And we talked about level 1, level 2, and level 3. Kind of give you permission to find a level that works. Do we have any pilots in the room? Anyone? Pilot. Perfect. So I'm going to ask you a few questions. What's your name, sir? Fred? Greg. Nice to meet you, Greg. How you doing? Good. So let's say this is the airport, and this is the runway on the airport. Okay? If you see me talk about the 90-day game plan, you've probably seen this, but I'm going to show you my artwork one more time. That's an airplane. Yeah. And it's sitting on the runway. And the reason why the speed is so important, because speed allows you to take off. Speed allows you, and it's the resistance that allows you to take off. You don't have, you got to have some resistance in order to be able to do it. That's created by speed. It's created by this energy, this burst of energy. So let's say, Greg, that I'm on the airplane here, and I'm ready to take off. But I'm not that, I've got a lot of stuff going on. I'm really distracted. I've got another business that I deal with. I've got kids. I've got, I'm starting a new workout program. I've got all this stuff going on. So I can't give it 100% right now. But I'll give you 30%, because 30% is something, right? So I'm going to give you 30%. I'm on the runway and say, okay, I'm excited. I'm buckled in. I'll give it 30%. Am I going to get off the ground? Not likely. Now, is there any chance of getting off the ground at 30%? Hold on, we're trying to get the microphone to work here. A regular airplane, any shot.
Not a chance.
No chance.
No.
Not going to get off the ground. So, but you understand, I'm starting a new workout program. Does the airplane care?
No.
Does physics care?
No.
About my issues?
Nope.
What if I'm reading a really good book right now?
Nope.
The airplane doesn't care. It's impersonal. It says, if you want me to take off, I've got all the equipment to do it. We've got fuel. We're ready to go. If you want to take off, what's required is how much gas do you need to give it? How much?
100%.
100%? That seems unreasonable. What if you don't give it 100%, you don't get altitude, if you don't get off the ground, what do you have to look forward to? The end of the runway. Okay? But it feels like progress. Because you're on the runway. I mean, this is typically what happens. Person's on the runway, and they're going, I'm moving. I'm moving. I just sold a product. I'm moving. I signed a distributor. I'm moving. This is so exciting. Maybe they get another airplane next to them. Now they got a downline, and they're both moving. Whee! They're not off the ground. Eventually, they're going to run out of gas. Right? But they have progress. And that's okay. I'm not judging that. Because guess what? You're going to have the majority of the people in your group are not going to be in level 1, level 2, and level 3. They're just going to be in the airplane, moving down the runway. At some point, they'll give you a level 1 or a level 2 or a level 3. But they're not going to give that to you right now. They just want to get their money back, see what happens. So, you now give it 100%. You get to a cruising altitude. And that worked so good, Greg, that we should probably just keep it at 100%. No?
No.
Why not?
You burn the engines out.
Burn the engines out. Huh. Burn up the fuel. It's not efficient.
That's correct.
That's correct. So, what do? You throttle back. And about what percentage throttle do you need to have to just maintain, be on cruise control?
60, 65%.
60 or 65%. Now that sounds reasonable. If I wanted to put it on autopilot for a little bit and go get some lunch, could I do that?
You had a co-pilot.
Yeah, if you had a co-pilot. Or even if you didn't have a co-pilot, you could put it on autopilot for a little bit.
Yes.
Could you have your instruments and read your nice book? Could you call your family?
Yes.
You could do other stuff. So my point to you is this. What if I only want to fly 5 miles away? Can I give it 50% then?
Get enough altitude, 50%.
No.
Take you right down to the next runway.
No, that's what I'm saying. If I don't give it 100%, whether I want to go 1 mile or 10,000 miles, I still have to give it 100% for a little bit.
Absolutely. To gain altitude, yes.
Okay, so back to our 3 levels, what I'm asking you is that in those level 1, level 2, level 3, that it's 100%. That it's sold out. That it's all the way. That it's white hot intense. That it's serious. It's no joke. Inside of that, because this level 1 person, they only want to fly 10 miles. That's fine. That's where their vision is right now. No problem. But you still got to give it 100% to get off the ground and get to that altitude. Then you can throttle it back. And maybe the level 1 person can throttle it back to 5 or 10 hours a week and maintain that income. It might not grow dramatically, but it'll maintain. Okay? So the person wants to go to level 2, they'll go 20, 40 hours a week, white, hot, intense, hardcore, to get off the ground, to go to maybe 5,000 a month. And then they throttle back to maybe 10 or 20 hours a week, real life after that 90-day push, and they maintain that income. Or the person that wants to go nuts, crazy, all in, they go 80 hours a week to get to that huge income. And then throttle back to be able to maintain it. Do you understand what I'm saying? So if you let's say you've lost momentum in the airplane. You've stalled. And then you get the engine restarted. What do you have to do to get back going up again?
You drop the nose a little bit and you power up full.
How much do you power?
Full.
Full. Is there such a thing as more than 100% on an airplane?
100% 100%.
Okay. But you got to give it everything. Every ounce. So if any of you are in negative momentum, if you or your company is doing this a little bit right now, you stalled out a little bit, guess what? You still have it in your control to turn it around. It's happened 8,000 times with every major company. Every billion-dollar company's had its time when it wasn't a fun time. It wasn't one of these. Maybe it's one of those. Maybe it's one of these. Maybe it's one of those. Doesn't matter. But if you find yourself in that situation, guess what? You have the ability to full throttle and pull it out. Get back to that cruising altitude. Sometimes that's a victory. Sometimes that's a major victory. Get back to the highest level that you qualified for ever. Get back to that level solidly qualified every single month. That's a major accomplishment. Okay? So, understanding this really helped me to get off the ground. Focus, commitment. The pilot's just taking off. They're just focused on that. Then you can throttle back. Now, if you want to go to another altitude, you could decide to do it again. And then another 90-day burst at some point. Level 1, level 2, level 3, you decide which level that you want to do depending on your goals. Let's say, is it a failure story? Let's say a person learns how to make $1,000 a month over the course of 90 days, working level 1, 10 to 20 hours a week. Okay? They make $1,000 a month, real money. Then they throttle back, and then a year later they do it again for another 90-day burst. And they add another 1,000. Now they're up to 2,000. And then they throttle back, and they did that for the next 10 years. Is that a success story or a failure story? Success story. Nice life, lots of balance. They got $10,000 a month, rock solid income. It took them 10 years to do it. You're going to be 10 years older anyway. You might as well have an extra $10,000 a month. That's just level 1. You understand what I'm saying? So what I've seen, depending on the intensity, the best in the world do one of these 90-day bursts, whether 1, 2, or 3, one a year. And even the best in the world don't do a level 3 once a year. I only did like 6 in my whole 25 years in the field, 6 of them. And that created 95% of the income. I didn't do one a year. If I did, who knows? But there's usually so much going on that's on the tail end of a 90-day game plan that you probably should, but maybe you fall into a success coma, a little bit. Get to that $1 million a year, you can put it on cruise control and just kind of hang out. You've made it. It's over, right? You don't even realize that you're just a little bit, just a little bit, just a little bit, just a little bit. All of a sudden, beep, 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 beep. Oh, wait a minute. I got to do it again, right? And there's a million excuses. For those of you who've had success, there's a million excuses. My team needs me. I've got to do this. I've got these other things going on. I'm working with this charity now. A million excuses. Best rhythm that I've seen when it comes to the 90-day game plan is one a year. One focused push a year. Hard. On whatever level that you want. Now, if you're level 0 right now, you want to go to level 1, you might be able to do level 1 for 90 days, take a little bit of time, and then do a level 2 in 1 year. Or maybe even a 1, 2, and 3 in 1 year. If you're really serious, if you're ramping up, that's fine. That can happen. But I'm saying as you continue, typically, 1 a year is a good mode. Go for 90 days, then take 9 months. Work with the team, support, train, encourage. Then do it again, bring in the class of 2015. Support, encourage, train, nurture, lead. Then the class of 2016, then the class of 2017. Once a year is a really good rhythm. Let me tell you a few stories. I did my first 90-day game plan in 1992. I've been in the business for about, I started in January 1988. And in the fall of 92, which is like 3.5 years in, I did my first one. September 1st, I started. And I'd never really gone as hard as I was prepared to go in that period of time. The company I was with was doing about $1 million a month in sales. Relatively new. And I had some competition. I got involved at the same time with some other powerful people. So I had some motivation to try and keep up with them. And one of my mentors told me, he said, Eric, The name of the game is speed. Whoever talks to the most people in the next 90 days wins. End of story. And that simple little idea stuck in my head that says, well, I wonder how many people he's talking to today. I just need to talk to a little bit more. And I need to talk to a little bit more tomorrow, a little bit more tomorrow. So whoever talks to the most people wins. If that's true, then I have it in my control to be able to win. So I decided to work like I'd never worked, ever. I started that first day, and I prepared a little bit ahead of time. We're going to talk about preparation. I prepared a little bit ahead of time. I pre-launched a little bit, and then I launched September 1st of 1992. And in my first month, I had about 80 people on the team, something like that. I recruited some, they recruited some. Second month, I had like 190. By the end of the third month, I had about 450, somewhere in that range. 450 people on the team. Okay? Working, no joke. This was the first one I did, so I literally worked 7 days a week, 16 hours a day, 8 a.m. to midnight every day. I wouldn't recommend that. You need at least that one day just to not talk. Because if you ever do one of these, you know what I'm talking about. Your voice is destroyed all the time. Just because you talk so much, it's unbelievable. So, I don't know what that is, 110 hours a week, something like that. That's what I worked for 90 days. I worked so hard. I mean, I drove to places, I got on airplanes, I did everything I could do to talk to as many people as I could. I created sizzle calls so people could call the sizzle call that would do a three-way call to them, and then they would set it up with me so that would save my voice. I would create the things that I was repeating over and over and over. I put it on recorded messages so other people could listen to it, so I didn't have to say it 8,000 times a day. I mean, I dialed and dialed and dialed and dialed and dialed and dialed and dialed. Think about if you never stopped calling for 16 hours in a day, how many, as soon as you hung up the one, you'd start the next one. Not hang up and talk about the one you just did for the half an hour, which most of us do. Let me tell you about this one. I'm really excited about this one. Whatever. Call the next one. I did that all day, right? Built this team, built up a nice little income. But here's what happened. There was a group of other people doing the same thing I was doing at the same time. The company went from $1 million a month in September to $14 million in December. 4 months. My income, I went from a leader to a higher level. That next year, because that next year I made $980,000, 1993. I went from just barely making enough to making almost $1 million in 1 year. Now, how does that happen? It happens because of the effort. It happens because of that burst of energy. It happens because of that push. There's a friend of mine who was part of that company, and his name is Art. He came to an event that we did in 1993, the beginning of 1993. We had this little event we did in Chicago. We told everybody, get to Chicago, get to Chicago, get to Chicago. We're going to teach you how to go back and own your market. Come in if you're serious. We're going to do a weekend event, and we're going to train your butts off. Just get to Chicago. And this guy drove all the way from Boston to Chicago because he didn't have the money. His beat up old car. And he was hungry, super hungry. And we sat with him, myself and guy that I was working with, part of the organization, and him sat in the lounge. And he said, tell me what I got to do. Tell me what I'll do it. If you tell me to wear a green suit, I'll wear a green suit. Tell me to stand on my head, I'll stand on my head. Something's got to change in my life. I've got to change. So we sat down and we said, guess what the only thing between you and being a millionaire is? And that is putting 1,000 people in a room in Boston, in your group, 90 days from today. If you do that, you'll be a millionaire. He said, are you serious? I said, yeah, I'm serious. He said, well, how would I do that? And we spent 2 hours breaking it all down. What kind of a team would you need to have in order to put 1,000 people in the room? What kind of story would you need to tell? What kind of vision would you need to have? What would the game plan need to look like? You'd have to get 10 leaders that could each get 100, or 100 people that could each get 10 to put 1,000 people in the room. Could you get 100 people to get 10 90 days from today and put 1,000 people in the room? Because if you do, and we do an event, and we tell the big story, we lay out the big vision, guess what? Your future is locked in. You'll be done. And he took it serious. He said, okay, I'm going to do it. And guess what? 90 days later, he didn't have 1,000 people, but he had about 600. 600 from nothing. And he quit like 2 or 3 times during the 90 days. Not kidding. Said, I'm not going to do this. It's too hard. It's too this. It's too that. You had to talk him off the ledge. Come on. 600 people. And today, he's done some amazing things in the profession. Today, he makes about $5 million a year. Has been making $5 million a year for quite a while now. Think about $5 million a year just for fun. Just think about it. Try and internalize that for a second. This month, let's say you walk out into this Mandalay Bay resort, and you win $400,000 today. $400,000. How would that feel? What would you do with that money if you got $400,000? Think about what you do with it. Now, guess what? You get to get it again next month. What would you do with the next 400? And then it keeps coming. What would you do with the next 400? It's 1.2 million in 90 days. Like what, 15,000 a day? Could you spend that much? It'd be hard. Some people give it a shot. But think about that. Now he's worked, believe me, he's worked hard. He's built an organization. He's done several 90-day game plans over the course of his career in order to be able to create that type of income. He's a hard-charging worker. But back then, he was hungry and broke. And saw the vision. And 90 days changed his whole life. Set him on a path to freedom. 2005. Let me give you one of my favorites. In 1990, I had a network marketing company that I owned, a company called TPN, the People's Network. It was a personal development network marketing company in the 90s. We sold it in 1998 to a company called Prepaid Legal Services, which is now Legal Shield. And I consulted with that company for 5 years till 2003. And then that consulting agreement ended. I started a traditional company, which was a media company around personal development. I wanted to create a personal development television channel, okay? Which we've kind of done through Network Marketing Pro, but in a completely different way. But we wanted to create like a discovery channel. We raised almost $10 million, good chunk of it mine, and guess what? It didn't work. We lost it all. So, and I bet everything on it, and it didn't work out. So in early 2005, I fired myself from my own company as CEO. We sold off the remaining pieces to another organization, and I was broke. I'd taken all the money that I'd earned, and I'd lost it, thinking that I was a genius. I could apply my genius anywhere. And there was one place I knew that I could create income and do it in a hurry because I needed money like oxygen. I don't know about you, where you're at right at this moment. Some of you are comfortable. I was not comfortable. Everything was shut down pretty much. Losing the house, the whole deal. And I found a company, started June 1st. June 1st? May 1st. May 1st. Yeah. No, June 1st. June 1st. It was June 1st. Well, you're saying no? It was June 1st. Yeah, it was June 1st. That's my son over there, Taylor. Say hi, Taylor. So anyway, June 1st I started. Did a little preparation, did a little pre-launch, And I went to work with no money, no resources, a little bit hard on myself, beating myself up, but I went to work. I have one ability: when crisis hits, I can put the blinders on and I could separate the drama from my life from the work I need to do. One skill I learned to do, any of you have drama right now? Financial drama, whatever. I learned to put the drama in a small window. So all the creditors, they fit in 1 3-hour window per week, literally. I would not take a call. I wouldn't think about it. I wouldn't look at the bills. I wouldn't open it up. I wouldn't let it overtake my life. I called them all once a week, and I said, here's the update. Here's what's going on. You don't have to call me. I'll call you. But every week, I called everybody, called the attorneys. They're dealing with the house, called all this stuff. Once a week, I put that in and then I put it away, and I wouldn't allow myself to think about it for the next week, and I went to work. Okay? Good advice if you ever find yourself in drama. And I went to work hard. And I recruited about 20 people in June. Yeah, this is June. I recruited about 20 people, a little bit more than 20 people, 22, 24, something like that. In the first month, I had about 160, 170 people on the team, something like that. Second month, I had like 350. Third month, I had like 600. Okay? And in that first 90 days, I earned about $83,000 in commissions. And I spent everything on travel and everything else and keeping the creditors away from the doors and everything I needed to do. But get this. In 6 years, I earned, 5.5 years with them, I earned about $7 million in commissions. And 90% of it, I could point exactly to that first 90 days. So somebody do math for me. Somebody pull out a calculator. Somebody have a calculator on your phone or something? You got it? Say, take 24 times 90 to figure out how many hours there are in 90 days. What's the number? 2,000? 2,160. 2,160 hours. I earned $7 million. 90% of it came from that. So take 700,000 off. $6.3 million. Take $6.3 million divided by 2160. $2,916 per hour is what I earned, even when I was sleeping. So take 2916 times 24. $70,000 per day. I earned $70,000 a day. Did I work hard? Yes. Did I know that was going to come? Yes. Was I work harder than anybody else imagined? Yes. Was I in trouble financially? Yes. Did I get the whole $70,000 while I was doing it? No. But I had to do it to get it. I had to do it when I was using my mom and dad's American Express card because they told me to leave my home without it. My own. Literally, I was using their credit card for my flights, to my airfare and hotels and stuff, because my credit cards were toasted. I'd let it all ride. I put it all on the line for this company. It didn't work out. So I'm in a situation where, so if some of you got some drama in your life, great. Use it. Use it. You know, if you still got your own credit card, you're ahead of me. Farther ahead than me. I learned that broke is no problem. Zero is no problem. I learned you can go way past zero. That starts to become an issue. Right? And then, you know, the other thing I learned with drama is the worst thing I could let it do was take my eyes off the goal. If I spent all day putting out fires, I was never going to be able to be free. If I spent all day worrying and anxiety, and how did I allow myself to get here, and I'm so stupid, and that investment was bad, and I should have structured this different. Why didn't I do this better? And all this stuff that I was beating myself up with. If you let go of that and just say, guess what? I have control of the situation from this point forward. I'm going to make it happen, or I'm going to die trying. One way or the other. But the biggest benefit for me is I realized that there was not something that anybody could do to me that was going to stop me from going where I needed to go. I mean, this created tax problems, all kinds of problems, okay? So I got calls from everybody. And I found if you talk to everybody, they'll be fine. Just talk to everybody and say, hey, I'm doing what I can. I'll give you what I can. I'll talk to you next week. You're now their favorite person. But if you hide from them, you run from them, you don't deal with them at all, well, then the heat's going to ratchet up a bit. So $70,000 a day, folks, for 90 days. If I paid you $70,000 a day to work like you've never worked in your life, how hard would you work for 70 grand in the next 24 hours? Cash. How hard? Hard. Would you do it again tomorrow? Would you give me 16 hours? Would you make 300 phone calls for 70 grand? Even if, it was uncomfortable? Yeah. But here's the trick. You got to do it to get it. They won't give it to you up front. If they gave it to you up front, guess what? The 70,000 would be 700. If you'll invest in you, it's 70,000. If somebody else has to invest in you, it's 700. For the hardest day you put in of your life. That's the difference. I could tell you story after story after story after story after story. All my high-earning friends have learned how to use this burst to create freedom. If you reverse engineered every super successful person in the entire network marketing profession, and you went back, you would find two things. One is they did a 90-day game plan at some point, whether they called it that or not. Two, during that period of time, at the beginning of that, they recruited about 20 people. Approximately 20 people in a short period of time. You'll find that those two things are accurate. So I like comparing what works instead of what just sounds good. And it's not always, I will tell you another story that I love. There's a young man, his name's David Ross. He came to one of our breakthrough events that we do. I do a 3-day coaching event, maximum 20 people or 15 distributorships, however that works out with couples. It's 3 days, it's private, it's pretty intense, and you come stay at the house with us, and it's hardcore, it's fun. David came to the event, and David's mom and dad are the number 2 distributors in a very successful company. They've been success. They earn $700,000-800,000 a year. They could set their watch to it. It's solid. It's forever. It's not going anywhere. But David's a young guy that got added to the family business. Okay? And now was tasked to manage this line and manage that line. Okay? Can you imagine? Coming in, trying to learn the business, now managing something that somebody else built. So they sent him to one of my breakthroughs and said, go learn the business. David's a sharp guy, very sharp. 33 years old, lives in the UK, comes into the event, and he is a sponge. He soaks it up. He just goes, oh my, the light bulbs turn on for David. And David understood the concept of a condensed burst of energy, of short-term blitz, and he took the short-term blitz concept back to the UK to his group, and he lit that company on fire. A guy that hadn't earned that spot, earned the respect of everybody in the group within 90 days. He lit that place up. He went from just group to group to group to group to group to group to group. He was recruiting people, bringing people in. Now they're before they were saying, well, should we even let him go on stage because they just added him to the distributorship. Now they're like, would you please come speak? Come speak at the company thing because you did this and this and this. He's recruited all these people, done all this stuff, lit it up. Totally revolutionized what they're doing over there. So fun to see what you can do with a condensed burst, whether it's spreading it through a group or an individual activity. There's both sides. My friend Jordan Adler is over there, author of Beach Money. Say hi, Jordan. Jordan's a 7-figure-a-year earner, and if you haven't read Beach Money, you should read it. It's an excellent book on lifestyle and how, the belief around our business. Excellent. And Jordan's going to come up here and speak in the second session tonight and share some ideas with you. But Jordan would tell you, if you go back and look at all these different people, there was a condensed burst at some point. Big part of his success was a condensed burst that he did several years ago that created a huge amount of his income today. If you look at all of them, and there's been, I personally know of 300 to 500 people. I'd have to count them, but 300 to 500 for sure that have earned over $1 million lifetime because of learning this strategy. For sure. There's probably a lot more than that. And of those, probably 50 to 100 that I've taught how to earn $1 million a year. Somewhere in that range. $1 million a year in the profession. So I'm not guessing is what I guess I'm telling you. I'm not guessing on this. It's for real. Okay? So let me tell you about, I'm going to come back to this. Inside of level 1 and level 2 and level 3, it's all about exposures. Whoever tells the story the most times wins. It's all about filling up your calendar. It's all about booking and holding appointments. How many times are you willing to tell the story in a burst of activity? It's all about exposures. That's the name of the game. Here's the really great thing. I want you to understand something that's phenomenal. Don't give me your company's name, but if you were to tell in your company, if you were to tell your story effectively, you were able to sit down with someone, and I'm going to come down here. If you're able to sit down with someone and tell them the story, out of 10 people that heard the story, how many would become a customer? How many would become a distributor? Okay? So out of 10.
5.
5 what?
5 or 6 customers.
5 or 6 customers. How many distributors?
2 to 3.
2 to 3 would become a distributor. Okay, do we have a mic? For those of you at home, so I don't have to repeat it every single time. Thank you. All right, in your company, out of 10.
Maybe 4 would become customers, 1.
4 would become customers, 1 would be a distributor. How about you guys?
It's about 3 customers, 2 distributors.
3 customers, 2 distributors. How about you guys? About
probably 6 customers, 3 distributors.
6 customers, 3 distributors. How about you guys? 3 customers?
3 customers and 2 recruits.
2 distributors? How about you? Oops, sorry, didn't mean to.
4 customers, 2 to 3 associates.
4 customers, 2 to 3 associates. Okay? Are you seeing a trend? Do you know how big those numbers are in anything in the world? Compared to anything in the world. Do you know how huge those are? You talk to 10, you're going to get 2. Are you kidding me? What? It's just a race then. You understand? The customers are gravy. The customers are like icing on the cake. Just, yeah, great. Join. It's going to be wonderful. But if you're going to get for real, average, across this whole room, anybody have different numbers? Dramatically different numbers? Or are they about to? Yours or less? What are yours? You're talking to 10 people.
2 to 3 are going to join whether customer or promoter. 2 to 3.
2 or 3 are going to join what?
3 is a really good ratio, and 2 I think is great.
2 are going to join as is this working?
Customer promoters,
Yeah, they're going to join as a distributor / customer.
2.
Okay? 2 or 3. Anybody have a bigger number, smaller number? Dramatically, either way? Yes, what's yours? 8 distributors and how many customers? 0? Okay, well, I'm talking about for your whole company, not just you. 4 or 5 customers? 4 to 5 distributors. 40 to 50%? Are you crazy? See, here's what I'm telling you. We are in the best profession on earth because our ratios are better than anything else on earth. Think about the ratios. They're nuts. You're telling me that if I just talk to 10 people and tell them the story, let them understand what I have, I'm going to get 2? You're telling me that for real? And all I got to do is tell people. So if I go talk to 100, I can get 20. Is that what you're telling me?
Absolutely.
Okay, then once you understand that, you're good. Just add appointments. Stir. And you create a downline. You kidding me? So once you understand this, everything gets better. But what ends up happening is people just go, yeah, but it was hard talking to those 10. And 8 of the people were mean to me. I was so frustrated over the 8 that I forgot about the 2. Because I was convinced that the other 8 were going to do it. So, have you ever figured out the value of a distributor? If you just took an average distributor, what the value is in total on an average. Okay? So, Jordan, how many people have you personally recruited in your company? 285. How many, and that's over how many years? 10 years. And in those 10 years, approximately how much have you earned? 11 million. $11 million from 285. Okay? Now, how many people do you think you prospected in order to get those 285? Ten times that, maybe? Well, you think you got 1 out of 10 over the course of it? All right, 1 out of 10. So let's say 10 times that he talked to. 2,850 people over the course of 10 years. 285 a year he talked to. Approximately? You think it's that high? Okay. I think that's high, but we'll see. So take 11 million divided by 2,850. How much? 38,000? $3,859 per prospect. $3,859 per prospect, not per distributor. He got paid $38.59 for every no, for every go away, for every leave me alone, for every don't put me on your do not call list, for every I only want to see you at Thanksgiving. $38.59. Extreme example. Ace, how many of you recruited in your career approximately, you and Gina? About 280, say 300? 300? In how many years? 19 years. How much have you earned approximately total? 1.5 million. How many do you think you talked to in order to get the 300? Five or six times that. So let's call it 1,500. So this is a smaller example over a longer period of time, but he still gets paid $1,000 per prospect, per no. $1,000 for every no. Is that worth it? Yeah. Maybe he didn't have the same, exponential growth that Jordan had, but he still gets paid $1,000 a no. That's not a bad situation. People go, well, the statistics in network marketing, they're just so stupid. People are stupid about network marketing. It drives me nuts. They're stupid. So if he gets paid $5,000 a yes and $1,000 a no, lifetime. Lifetime. This young lady said she, just in the last year, you took off, right? You did this strategy. You told me you went from homeless to $40,000 a month, $33,000 a month. From homeless to $33,000 this year. So, how many people have you personally sponsored this year in the last 12 months? 150 people in the last 10 months. And how much have you earned? How many do you think you talked to, prospected in order to get the 150? Approximately. About 300. So, and if you added up all your earnings for 10 months, what does it add up to? Can you do the math quick? These are some mature examples. I'm going to give you an early one. This is 10 months old. Okay? Sorry? No. It's not 33 from day one. It's 33 was your biggest. Well, that's 32. Go ahead. 46. 67. 77, 87, 95. And then, how many months did we get in? So, can we say about 120-ish? Okay. 120,000. Yeah, it's more than that, right? But whatever. 120,000. Let's round down for once in network marketing. Okay. How much did she earn per prospect? What's 300 into 120,000? Huh? So 400 per prospect. Is that the lifetime value of that exposure? Not even close. It's only 10 months in. Take that for the next 10 years, like these two examples, and you start seeing. It's like, holy moly. If I just get moving here, I can make some stuff happen. But here's what I can guarantee you. If you don't go talk to these people, these numbers are going to get real close to zero. If you take the average value per distributor lifetime, no matter what the company, it's very difficult to go less than $1,000. Very difficult. I can't imagine it going less than $1,000 in any company. So when you have a profession with statistics like this, all you got to do is go talk to 10 people. Go talk to 10. And you don't even care if you're getting paid $400 per prospect. You want to do it or not? No. Thank you for your $400. Appreciate that very much. I got to talk to the next one because if I do this one an hour, I'm going to make $400 an hour. Thank you very much. And that's not an exaggeration. Do you get that? It's for real. Do you get that? If you did, you wouldn't stop talking to prospects. If you really... See, here's the thing. If you'll do this first in order to be able to get it, you'll get paid $400. If I have to hire you to do it in order for you to get off your ass, I'll pay you $10. Or you do it on your own and you get $400. You do it on your own, you get $4,000. Or I have to do it for you. I have to tell you where to go. I have to give you the script. I have to give you the little, come in and see our store sign to flip on the street. I'm going to pay you $10 and you get to wear a clown suit. You pick. You get it? The stats in our profession are just staggeringly great. It would still be worth it if you had to talk to 50 to get 2. It would still be great numbers. Typically, you only have to talk to 10 to get 2. Now, let me give you a magic number. I've studied over 100 different $1 million a year earners. Thousands of $100,000 a year earners. I'm friends with an enormous amount of people in the profession. There's a magic number. There's a magic number in network marketing. And the magic number is this. 20. 20. 20 personal recruits in a relatively short period of time. That's the magic number. 20 personal recruits in a relatively short period of time. I'm going to give you strategies for each of you to go out there and recruit 20. If you're in level 1, level 2, or level 3, any one of those 3, you can, with the time that you have available, you can recruit 20 in 30 days. You can. All of you. Are you hearing that low buzz, or is that just me? We're working on it or something? All right. I don't know if you're hearing it at home. Hi, home. So 20 in a short period of time. If you're level 1, working 10 to 20 hours a week, you can recruit 20 people in 30 days. You can. You have to be very focused and very disciplined and really on point to be able to do it, but you can do it. If you're in level 2, 20 to 40, no problem. If you're level 3 and you don't recruit 20, I don't understand it. Because you're so busy, so active that you'd have to just be toxic for people not to want to. Seriously. So recruit 20. Here's why 20 is important. Let me give you the math. 20 is really important for this reason. Out of 20, 12 will do something. About 8 of the 20 are just going to disappear, become product users, and that's it. 12 of them will do something. They'll get a customer. They'll get a distributor. They'll show up at the event. They'll engage. And you're going to be excited, going, I've got 12 lines. Oh my gosh, I'm going to max out the whole compensation plan with these 12. All the way to the top. It's going to be amazing. But you don't really have 12. That's just an illusion. Within 90 days, you're going to realize that about 8 of them are driving all the activity. You're going to think you got 8 solid lines. That's what you're going to think. But you don't. Within about 1 year, that's going to boil down to about 4 solid leaders. It's not that the other ones are going to disappear. They're just going to do lesser volume. If you take a year later, after you bring in 20, you have 4. You take 4 of the 20 will be doing 95% of the production of the entire team. And then there'll be dribs and drabs from the others. 4 of the 20 on average. And these numbers hold really, really accurate. Okay? 4 of them are going to be doing something. 1 of the 4 will be doing anywhere, well, over 50% of the total. 1 of the 4. You just don't know who it's going to be. And you could try to guess at the beginning, and you're going to fail like crazy because it's really hard to figure out who's going to do it and who's not, because you can't judge what's inside a person. You know, the external doesn't give you the whole picture. So 1 of the 4 is going to be doing about 50%. And really, if you look at this long term, within 5 years, you've got 2 rock solid, not going anywhere. They're going to build whether or not you leave, whether or not you go do something else. They're forever. And they're generating a huge percentage of your income. One might be generating more than the other, but between the 2 of them, they're still 95% plus. And they're the bedrock, the rock solid foundation of your organization. Okay? These numbers hold true. I'm telling you. How many people in this room have ever recruited 20 people or so in a short period of time? Okay. Now, for those of you that have done that, for you, these numbers hold pretty true? It's spooky, right? You kind of go, oh, well, that person, wow, how did that happen to get there? But it gets there. Anybody have these numbers not hold up? They hold up. They just do. Trust me. For the rest of you that haven't recruited 20, guess what one of my biggest assignments is going to be? Leaving here? Get that done. Get that. You're like, well, what are you talking about? It's hard for me to recruit 1. I get it. I understand. And don't start with your list of excuses. I already went through my warm market. Where am I going to find people to talk to? Stop it. We'll get you there. Don't worry about that. Okay? So, here's the problem. A person, if you're not focused enough to get to the 20 number, that number repeats and repeats and repeats in this profession. You might do more than that, but that number repeats. The reason why I think she's done so well in 10 months, and I don't know your story or anything about it, but the fact that you've probably done that 20, how many times in 10 months? 150 people in 10 months. So you probably, in any 30-day period of time, you've probably done 3 or 4 or 5. 3 or 4 anyway, in a short period of time. That's why she was able to kind of condense all that growth into such a short period of time. Growing fast in the book, GoPro, wonderful. So, 20. Now, here's the problem. Some person says, well, you know what? I don't want to deal with all that many people. It's just too many. I'd rather just recruit like 6 and just really quality, and I'm really going to work with those 6, and we'll take those 6 all the way to the top. We're going to leave no one behind. We'll drag them all across the finish line. Let's say they say 8 people. Or they don't do it in a short enough period of time, and those 8 start to get them really busy, and they stop personally recruiting. They just start working with the 8. Happens all the time. Okay? So they're working with the 8. If you use these same percentages, you're going to end up with about 5 that do something. Then you're going to have about 3 after 90 days. In 1 year, you're going to have 1. And in 5 years, you're going to have a fraction of a person. So, and you might not end up with 1, is what I'm saying. You might not have enough raw materials in the pipeline in order to end up with a quality organization. Now, you might say, well, I don't like these numbers. I want these numbers to be better. Well, I would too. But they're not. Do you know how many people in here have ever sold real estate? Anybody? Guess what percentage of real estate agents that go through their entire licensing process, guess what percentage never sell a single home? Guess what it is? 94%. Never sell one home. I think that profession should be investigated. That's what I think. FTC should just get on their butts. They don't even have a buyback policy for that license. Think about it. That's the real world, folks. 94%. Same numbers in financial services. Same numbers everywhere in the world. There's going to be some that come in and guess what? They get locked up. They get distracted. They go, oh, look, a butterfly. And they're gone. They never come back. That's what we deal with in this world because you can't force people to do things. Some people don't fit inside of this mold because they've been told what to do their whole life. They're like a trained animal that can't act without being told. They're unable to act without being told. So they wait for someone to tell them. And they get great comfort in following that assignment. That's not our world. That's not what we live with. So guess what? What I hope is most of them become customers at some point. That'd be fantastic. Become customers. Just, enjoy yourself. That'll be great. Sometimes they don't even stay on the product because the product reminds them that they didn't take action. They feel bad about it. So they, you know what I mean? They get the auto ship and they go, oh, the guilt piles on with every auto ship. They feel a little bit worse. Right? That's the truth. So some fade, and that's okay. It's all right. But if you want to have success at some point, part of your 90-day game plan must include this number. And if you're not willing to do that, or at least face your fear, I'm going to equip you to do it, but face your fear to do that after you leave here, I would suggest don't even go into level 1, level 2, level 3. Just cruise. Treat this like a hobby. You know what I mean? Treat it like a hobby where you have your hobby friends, doing your hobby stuff, going to the events, becoming a better person, do the personal development. You know what I mean? Hang around positive people, have a positive environment, be healthier with the products, don't put so much pressure on yourself. Enjoy your life. Serious. I'm dead serious. I would rather have you do that hobby thing than be stuck in this middle lukewarm thing that never goes anywhere. Where you're working hard, but not enough to be effective. Where you're giving a lot of time. If you have anybody in this room have an unsupportive spouse, well, you're probably sitting next to him, so I can't ask you. Do you know why there's unsupportive spouses out there? Because you're stuck in this middle place where you're putting in too much effort and not getting enough return, and they're tired of watching you sell yourself for pennies. That's why. They're not going to be a negative spouse if you're in the hobby level, and they're not going to be a negative spouse if you're doing it like a professional. They're only going to be negative if you're stuck in the middle, and they have to deal with all the inconveniences of a person playing business and not doing it. That stinks as a person sitting on the sideline watching that. See, why I don't want to support that. You're worth more than that. For crying out loud. And they end up yelling at the profession, and the profession's not the issue. Right? The person just hasn't made the decision. So, the magic number is huge. Tonight, I'm going to go through the structure of any 90-day game plan. Level 1, level 2, level 3. I'm going to go through the structure of it all. Talk to you about the different phases. Let me give you the basics of the structure now. Number 1 is decision. You got to make the decision of what you're prepared to do. Level 1, level 2, level 3. Are you really going to do this, or are you just playing around? Number 2 is preparation. You got to prepare to do this right. Preparation can be a few days, it could be a few hours, it could be a few weeks. Just don't let it take up your whole year preparing. 3, pre-launch. Pre-launch phase is very powerful for recruiting, telling the story, getting people excited, planting the vision out there. Very powerful time. Number 4 is the launch, the 90-day campaign. From launch to completion. And number 5 is an optional event. Sometimes a 90-day game plan can end with an event like Art had that big thing to drive towards, putting 1,000 people in a room. But I had to put out, and I've always used the event as a personally. But I've found now that I've taught this for the last 2-3 years, is the event really messed some people up. Because they just got too focused on the event, and I had people that were so focused on putting 1,000 people in the room that they didn't recruit anybody. They ended up spending all the time calling the company. Will you send some support over here? And calling other downlines. Will you send some people in over here? Because we booked this big room and now we're scared. You know what I mean? People got totally overwhelmed by the event piece. So some people have the power to do that, and some people don't. At least maybe not in this stage. And sometimes it doesn't need to be 1,000 people. Sometimes it could be 100 if you've never done one. Let's have that one sell out. Then go to the next one. Have that one sell out. Go to the next one. Okay? So this is optional. And the only other thing that I would say is there's another part of the structure is post-launch. And all that means is, what do you do after you're done with your big push so you don't let all the air out of the balloon and everybody goes to sleep? How do you keep the energy moving when you're not going as hard as you were going? How do you keep people excited and focused? And there's a science to that. So you don't do all this effort and then just drop the ball like a lead balloon and it's over and everybody stops working. Okay? That can happen too. So all of these things said, this is the basic structure we're going to talk about tonight. Before we wrap up the session 1, I want to give you some common mistakes when it comes to the 90-day game plan, some misunderstandings, because I put out some videos. If you've watched the 5 videos or whatever, the different videos that I've put out at different stages of evolving teaching this, and people have run out there without much more information, without 2 days worth of information. Maybe they watched for an hour and they said, well, I'm starting tomorrow. This is going to be amazing. It's created some drama for some people. Because it wasn't really meant for that. It was to give them a taste so they would come and learn properly. But anyway, one common mistake is they charge out literally 5 minutes after they watched it. I'm starting my 90-day game plan today. It's, they haven't prepared. They haven't done any pre-launch, which they lost some value for, and they find themselves overwhelmed, and they typically shut down after they become overwhelmed. Another challenge is they expect, here's a major misconception, they expect that they're going to get their whole team to go with them. And here's the reality about a 90-day game plan. It's a solo journey. Some other people might go a little bit, but it's really you. The 90 days is you deciding that you're going to take your effort to a completely different level. It's not about your ability to get 100 people to do it at the level that you're going to do it at. Because some people say, okay, ready? Are you guys in? Yes, we're in. You're going to hit it as hard as I did? Yes, I am. Okay, let's go. And they run and they look behind them. There's no one there. And they went, well, the 90-day game plan didn't work, I guess, because my team isn't coming with me. It's not about that. 90-day game plan, the biggest part for you is to accomplish this. And then take that group and inspire them into action, whether it's basics, getting their money back, from their initial investment, move them into level 1, or some aspect of what they're prepared to do, getting them started effectively, et cetera, getting some duplication happening with this group. The 90-day game plan, imagine if you just do this once a year for the rest of your career. Once a year, just do this. And then work with that group. And then do it again, then work with that group. Do it again, work with that group. Do it again, work with that group. So it's really a solo thing. It's not a group thing. There's some group strategies that we can use, but it's not really a 90-day game plan. It's more of a campaign around a tool or a new product or some sort of culture that you're trying to build inside the group. You can do that. But this 90-day game plan is really just about you. You shouldn't require anyone to go with you. No one. Not even your best friend. Your upline or your downline or your person that you came to this event with. It shouldn't require them in order for you to do it. Third issue that I've seen is people get overwhelmed with the 60 to 80 hours a week, so they go to nothing. They just go, this was way more than I expected, I can't handle it. Instead of backing down to level 2 or level 1, it's the reason why I added the level 2 and the level 1, because I think there's some really creative things we can do with level 2 and level 1 committed people. But people, it was 80 hours or 0. I'm just going to use the product. And then they felt bad about themselves because they didn't stick with their 80. I want to give them permission to go into 40 or go into 20 if they want to and still feel all right about it. And another big challenge is they write their goals down on paper and they feel like they're written in stone and they can't change them. And the big thing that I've learned is no plan that you're ever going to make is exactly going to work out that way. Anybody ever written a business plan for a company? Anybody? How many people had the business plan if life made it followed that plan exactly? Nobody? It just doesn't happen that way. You write it up, that's your expectation. That's where you're hoping to get to. But it doesn't work out that way. Why? Because life happens. Every plan works perfect till you add people to it. And it gets all messed up. Messy. So the same thing's true here. I'll give you an example for the plan that I did in 2005. Here was my plan. I was going to launch in June. I was going to do a big push in June, and in July, we were going to do a big event in Chicago. So we were going to tell everybody to get to Chicago, and we're going to do a 3-day training event in Chicago, teach them how to go back and own their market. And then in August, we were going to do West Coast of the United States. And then in September, we were going to do East Coast, same event, United States. And then in October, we were all going to go to the company convention from all of the locations, and we're going to march in there with 1,000 people. That was our game plan. Okay? So here's what happened, though, in reality. In reality is, we got to Chicago. We had about 300 people in Chicago, which was 45 days in, was pretty good. We were happy with it. Had this big event, did this training, and then all the leaders, then we said, okay, now let's tell you about the West Coast and East Coast. And all the leaders said, wait. We need to talk first. They said, we got all we need right now. And we're so busy talking to people and recruiting and building in our local markets, we don't have time to go to West Coast and East Coast. Can we just go home and go to work in our local markets and all of us go to the convention in October? Can we just do that, please? Because we know what we need to do. We don't need another event to tell us what to do. We're good. We got it. We're like, okay. So our whole plan got blown up. We were going to do Chicago, West Coast, East Coast, big convention. And we ended up doing Chicago, big convention. Now, we still marched in there with about, 1,000 people, something like that, for the whole group at the big convention. So we still hit our goal, but we got there a different way. There's tools that show up that change things. There's, some daily method of operation that might need to evolve. Company comes out with a new product that might change some strategy or whatever. It doesn't matter. Just understand that, part of being a visionary is being flexible too. To being able to say, yes, okay, there's another path. Like the rocket on the way to the moon is off track 99% of the time. It's making 1,000 little course corrections. That's what we've got to do, make course corrections. Okay, that didn't work. This is scaring people away. This was getting people moving. This is getting some duplication happening. Okay, let's model what's working. Let's move aside what isn't working. Let's take the stuff that sounds good but isn't working. Let's move it over there. Let's add more to what's working. Let's get it moving. You understand? So you're kind of like a mad scientist leading this charge. I'm sure Martin Luther King didn't say, okay, we're going to do this and this and this, but all roads lead to that Washington Monument when I say that I have a dream. That's going to be our plan. It wasn't his plan. He was marching here and marching there and doing this and preaching there and doing all these different things. That just happened. It was part of the product of doing the work that created the magic. And the same things happen every time I've done a 90-day campaign. There's something that happens in the 90-day campaign that couldn't have been predicted that creates the magic, that creates the spark, that lights the fire. I never know where it's going to come from, but it always comes. Every time. Okay?